For more on this, I'm joined from Arizona by Erol Markoc, spokesperson for Republican Overseas. Erol, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. The memorial of Charlie Kirk drew tens of thousands of mourners to Arizona yesterday. You were there to pay your respects. Can you describe what the atmosphere was like?
Yes, it was beyond anything I've ever experienced in politics, in religion, or in just social engineering and grouping. It was a Trump rally mixed with the Holy Spirit, people from around the world, from different walks of life, all who had converged there. Many people had personal anecdotes or events that had brought them there. And it was just an atmosphere of love. And as you had touched on, Erica Kirk's forgiveness of the killer. It was tremendous. On a personal note, Charlie introduced me to my fiance 6 years ago, and we're getting married in December. We went down to the memorial to deliver his invitation there, and obviously not the best circumstances for that, but we saw people there praying for the soul of the assassin. So I want to just stress to anybody watching this that this was a gigantic festival of love, true love. You had the entire administration of the U.S. government there. Effectively, the U.S. government put everything on pause for 24 hours to honor Charlie Kirk and his work that he's done through college activism, and now as he became a young man, is in great part why we have a President Trump today and why we have Republican leadership in the House and Senate. And so, to put a very tight word on it, I would say it was the biggest celebration of love I have ever seen in my life.
And Erol, you just mentioned there that Charlie introduced you to your fiancée. You're due to get married. You went there to deliver the invitation, and approximately 90,000 people actually gathered for Charlie Kirk's memorial yesterday in Arizona. What was Charlie Kirk like as a friend to you, and why did so many people resonate with him and his politics and his beliefs?
I think it's really important to understand how young Charlie was when he was killed at 31. When I first met Charlie, I was an undergraduate at UC Berkeley, and we couldn't get him there. Berkeley's too competitive to get there, but he was the first person to show up and sort of give young conservatives and college campuses the attention that none of us had. Now, granted, back then it was such a fractional movement that he didn't really know much, and Charlie was a little bit younger than me, but he had this passion and this drive and this belief to come out to California into the absolute hornet's nest, and at least he stood for us. And then later on in life, I had the really great honor of playing a very small role in helping him and Jack Ross and the people at Turning Point UK launch Turning Point UK, and Charlie brought me with him as a guest to Mar-a-Lago after talking with me just for a few minutes after remembering that we had been friends 4 or 5 years before. And he opened his world to me. He brought me in, he introduced me to people, but more importantly, he taught me how to debate people professionally. And the reason why I'm sitting here today, why I've been on media career for 6-7 years, I'm not saying just because of Charlie Kirk, but Charlie was the first person to tell me, hey, don't be angry. Go out and debate them. Watch me do it. And it's tough when you're older than somebody to take advice from a younger man. Easy to admit that. But Charlie actually lived what he said. And even if you were kind of like, man, I don't know if I want to do that, or I'm in college, I don't know if I want to be part of a conservative or even Christian movement, Charlie was unabashedly faithful. He didn't have a problem with anybody of different beliefs. He wanted you to debate him. And I think one of the coolest things about what he did was he built this Turning Point USA organization. And when I finally went there with him, I was surprised to find that it was like 75% the most normal people you would ever imagine. Students from across the country, back and forth. And then the last 25% of the people there were just policy nerds, like kids who were really into trade policy. It was the least like controversial group of people I'd ever been around. And it was so inspiring to see that Charlie had brought these young people as I was transitioning out of college. So then I graduated as a postgrad, and I went on, and Charlie had the rest of his career, and then he was, killed as he became a man effectively with a beautiful wife and 2 kids. So, Charlie was a kind man. He had so many friends, so many people who have these type of stories about him. Anybody on television is going to tell you a positive interaction. And Charlie touched so many people, and he was living on airplanes. I can relate to that. And, he goes around and he meets people, but in that short time he's with you, there's no lie in the man. There's nothing but kindness, and he gives you his trust and his faith. And nobody I know broke that trust because Charlie had that sort of spirit about him, and he practiced what he preached. In the end, he was shot for that.
And let's talk a little bit more about Erica Kirk. I watched the memorial, and she delivered an extremely moving and brave speech. And she said she forgives her husband's accused killer pretty remarkable, I thought. This has actually divided opinion with some people over in the US, saying it undermines the seriousness of the crime and the pursuit of justice. What do you think about how Erika Kirk conducted herself? And she's a lady of faith.
Well, I think she conducted herself the same way that Charlie did. They always said God first. God, family, country. And in the Christian belief, you forgive your enemies. Now, most people don't have the capacity to do that. I mean, myself included, I'm there watching her forgive the man who killed her husband, somebody who just loves and spent all of her time with her. I don't know if I have that power in me, and I barely know Charlie as much as her. You saw President Trump when he went out there and he made that comment, well, I don't forgive my enemies. I mean, that's how a lot of us feel. But, how we behave politically and in the judicial system and in our lives as human beings that we all do is different than how a true believer Christian believes in the salvation of their soul. And Erika Kirk, what a funny slip. Erika Kirk, she said, if I don't forgive this man, then when I get to heaven and God says an eye for an eye, is that how we do things? Then maybe she wouldn't be able to join Charlie in heaven. So for her to make it to heaven, she was willing to forgive her killer almost at 0 hour. And it was shocking, not shocking, really, like it's something you believe that they would do, but in your soul and in everybody's eyes, I mean, to see her do that, I mean, and I'll say this, a lot of us who are angry, well, it's going to be really tough for us to be angry if she's given up that forgiveness. And I think she's done a great favor to a lot of, especially young men who maybe carry that anger a little bit harder. And you see somebody like that who's really has no reason to forgive, do it. I think it's an example, it's a leadership, and that's why she's the new CEO and chairman and leadership of Turning Point USA. I think her mission now is to bring all the young women on board after Charlie brought all the young men on board, and we can really make America great again as Charlie hoped.
It was so brilliant to get your views. Thank you so much for speaking to us about your friend Charlie Kirk. And I also wish you have a lovely wedding coming up soon. Erol, once again, it was a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much.